and good conversation, you gotta tune in to Coffee and Conversation with Collette. That's me. Thursday mornings from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on the only station, WHBR TV 33. See you soon. We are back. We are back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in to Coffee and Conversation on WHBR TV 33, or whether you're tuning in from Comcast or Roku or however you got here. Thank you so much. We've just concluded our first hour. We had as a special guest our regular Friday, if you will, co-host, the Son of Man from the New Nation of Islam, and we delved into the subject matter of what it's like to be a black man in America. And prior to the break, and I asked 6'4" to stay on for holding and to stay on the line for me because I wanted to just give some clarity. Again, our goal on this program, what do I always say? That we can educate, enlighten, and empower. That is our goal. My goal to present to us also is that there's more than one way to have a conversation. And so I always say, I don't belittle what you say, what you think, how you feel. I respect that. I ask us to respect that of each other. And I wanted to give clarity because I believe that in the previous conversation, and then we're going to delve into it a little more next Friday with the Son of Man. But I just wanted to interject because I didn't believe that 6'4's comments stated that he did not believe in God. He referenced us being loving people and honoring our brother and sister. And so, for us, I always want us to be fair. I always want to, we can always agree to disagree. And so on next Friday, when the Son of Man comes on, and if 6'4", if you're so in consideration to come back on as well to have that dialogue. But I just wanted to say what I heard. 6'4", you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing of it is I never, as often as you hear me talk, I always refer to the God in you.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell you, greater is he in you than he in this world.
Yes. Yes.
And the reason why I let you know that is because we didn't need none of these handmaidens of conquest, which is nothing but what organized religions are, to do the human thing to each other.
Yes.
So when I say that there was, before all of this happened, we were in existence doing it. This is why you don't know the African origins of Christianity or Islam, because we was practicing it and wasn't calling it a name. We knew to love our brother. You didn't have to tell us the Bible said it or the Quran said it. We looked at you like, why you need a book to tell you?
Yeah.
We looked at you and said, why do you need a rule? Let me tell you, that's why I talk about the 10 Commandments. Those are not commandments. Those are omissions from Luxor.
Yeah.
It's not that thou shalt not covet your wife's neighbor. That's arrogant.
Okay.
That's beastie. That's bully. No, the answer is I have not.
Okay.
I have not violated Collette.
Okay.
I have not tried to do her wrong. I have not done her injustices.
Okay.
I have not stole from her.
Sure.
I will not, because I know not.
Okay.
There is something in us that controls us that's greater than any religion that man has set up.
Yes.
I have no love affair with none of them. All of them are handmaidens of conquest and male chauvinist murderous cults. Bottom line, the Arabs use Islam to justify their slavery and imperialism. And that is history. Okay. That is history far before Christ. Let me tell you something. Muhammad, nobody knew where he was, but we knew what Bilal was. We knew Bilal was there. We knew he was Islam, his helper, but nobody knew where he was. So if I wanted to go and give you some information, then I'm going to end up giving you something that's going to end up disrupting what you thought you knew, because I'm going to give you some facts.
Well, stay right there. And stay right there. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to have a conversation. And remember, the fact, and who? What, doctor? Where are you? The doctor. Forgive me, I forget your name. But doctor always comes in and talks about fact. He talks about science. That's what we're here for. We're here to give exacts, everybody, so that we can become better. But I don't want us here. I think we are delving back into an area, a shade of gray that I have a problem with. We keep getting caught up in this philosophy, and we're going to keep arguing with each other about a philosophy to prove a point. And then what? How does it change our existence? So I'm going to ask, so is that what the plight of the black man is in America? So we got to constantly fight against each other because we are so into making sure that we keep each other in check? And so you can't have an opinion. I can't have an opinion. We can agree that we have an opinion, and then we can keep going on to do something better that's going to be for all of us. If that's what it's like to be a black man in America, I mean, tell me.
Yes.
Because I'm still trying to get this back because that dissension that we always have amongst each other, I got a problem with it. I have a problem with it. It seems that when we're in positions where black men have a platform that they can talk about certain things or talk about their expertise and whether it was learned or however it was given or birthed out to you, we always got to jump on everybody. And it doesn't have to be raising your voice and it doesn't have to be those things. Why can't we just have a conversation because we all want to be better versus constantly hitting people on the head to try to tell them something different? Black people, black men, I need to know, is that how you all engage? Is that the norm or banter? Does one person have to be the head of the group and they have to be the right and then everybody else just has to follow you along? And where did that come from? Because the truth is, what kind of power do black men have in America, period? You all might say, well,
Well,
Clint, we got a whole bunch of
power
power.
before they called it power. You see, we had the power was always in the black man. What happened was somebody named it power, and somebody said it needs to be collective and unified
Sure.
instead of being abroad and rampant like it was.
Sure.
You don't go to one place where they not loving. They all love.
Sure.
It is love. Let me tell you something about love. In the Native American culture, love is universal.
Okay.
Love is so universal they won't destroy a plant.
Okay.
Look how we, through religion, black, white, everybody else, have destroyed worlds. We have
Right.
destroyed this earth because our lack of understanding what true love is all about.
Mm.
You didn't need no book or nothing to tell you to love. If
Sure.
you can't, like your mama used to say, if I got to always remind you, what's up with you?
Well,
These are
we'll stay right there because maybe that goes to the conversation that we had last week. That maybe, remember, we were dealing with our transparencies last week. We were dealing with our interventions last week. Maybe we don't know how to love. We keep using that word so frivolously and loosely, but maybe we don't know how to love. Because if we did,
okay.
because if we did, we wouldn't constantly have to keep having these conversations to prove each other right or wrong. Because let me just tell you, I wasn't there. You weren't there. At some point, maybe when all of this is over and we leave this physical flesh, then we will know what the truth of it is. But no one else has come back to tell us what it is. So the dialogue that we keep having, if it's this push and pull, how then does it make it better for us right now? How does it make black men better? So that the choices that black men are making for themselves and for their families and their communities are better. So we don't have the massive incarceration rates that we have. We don't have the massive homelessness numbers that we have. We don't have the massive kind of vagrant wandering numbers that we have of black men in America. Black men, I'm trying to understand what it's like to be a black man. I can't even imagine it. But if we can't have the truthful dialogue and saying, brother, you can believe this. I want to understand why you believe this. And then allow me to do the same and then see then how we become better. I don't know what it is.
Exactly.
And all I can do is ask you because I'm a woman. And I don't want to
No,
be
you're
one of
right.
those
No,
women that says, oh, well, you should do it this way because I think you should do it this way. I can't, I don't, hello, I'm a woman. I'm not a
you know,
man.
Collette, and see, and here's how I tell brothers, because I don't get into them debates, because in certain debates you divide the psyche of those who's listening, because the audience is looking for a right and a wrong in the debate. They are. That's just
Yeah,
human
yeah.
nature.
I mean, that's right.
So
Or stay right there. Or we're looking for someone to define our position. And I'm just
exactly.
asking us to remove our positions. If again, if all of this makes us better, so be it. I said to
And
us
that's what
last
it is.
week. Yeah, I said to us
And
last week.
that's all it is when it comes down to a see. We, in this sense, when it comes to how good the black man, how great the black man is, nobody is right or wrong. We all right. Because the black man and the black woman is all of that and then some. We are all right. And I tell my brothers, there's nothing wrong when everybody's all right.
Ah.
We so used to one person has to be right, and he told everybody what was right. No, we all are right.
And guess what?
Stop letting people hold your right hostage. You are right too. So the man is right. I'm right. Reverend Holly right. Everybody who's trying to encourage and get the black man and black woman out of this crap we call financial enslavement, social enslavement, they all are right.
And stay there. And so that's what we presented before. That if everybody is right, we move that off of the table. Where do we stand? What do we do next? Because as I presented to everyone, it is a platform. Everything that people do is a platform. If I present to you prosperity preaching, that's a platform. If I present to you action and word, whatever, that's a platform. Because again, people are looking for, you can't do it by yourself. So everyone is looking for someone to agree with them, so then there can be action. But I'm going to give that question to you before we even get there. If you don't know who you are, if you don't know what it is to be a black man, then how do you go anywhere? We're going to go to a clip 6-4. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. All the other lines are lit. I
Hey,
want us
thanks for
to
taking my call.
absolutely. I want us to go to the clip, and then I want us to come back and have the conversation. Don't go anywhere.
When I became a man, I put away childish things. But before I became a man, I didn't always fit the shoes of a king. I was a child trying to find his way. And the toys I played with kept my eyes occupied and left my mind in a lustful, boyish frenzy. And my playmates had long legs, short skirts, and soft skin, and they cared enough to lie down and wallow with me often. Jezebel turned out to be my very best friend. I'd look in her eyes before ever seeing the sunrise, every time I paid her a visit and slept in. Before I became a man, I saw how God made Adam from dust. So likewise, I tried to make love out of lust. I didn't know any better. I was taught by example, let your mouth spit game, but never let your heart say much. I treated his daughters like beauty pageant contestants, and there would be zero return on their investments, and Proverbs 31 was never a criteria for my selections. Mind you, this was before I became a man. This was about the time that I took notes from a father figure who really didn't know how to be a father. Go figure. About the time that mom was a punching bag because he was too afraid to take his frustrations out on the world instead by simply enduring affliction. Yet during addiction, he could go 12 rounds against the most violent screams of stop, stop. And he was undefeated. He always won. And I would stand in plain sight, hoping Daddy sees. Because all I could say at the time was, Daddy, please. Mom didn't deserve what she got just because she didn't satisfy Daddy's needs. Before I became a man, I would unlock Daddy's curse, free myself, and throw away Daddy's keys. I allowed anger to set up a construction company inside. And bitterness never rested. It left no time wasted. And whether daddy loved me or not, all I could regurgitate was hatred. I became allergic to showing any form of compassion. Before I became a man, I was much shorter. Not just in height, but in spiritual insight. Because I never had a picture, nor did Pixar ever have a film to show me what God's man really looked like. But when I became a man, I learned how to love God right back. And even though I'm good at falling short of the glory, I reflect on my story, and through my praise, I'll self-publish a testimony. When I became a man, I learned how to cry. Because I'm not ashamed of my tears, neither will my fears muffle the groaning in my spirit. Since I became a man, I'm no longer afraid of the dark. I'll wrap my fingers around James 5:16, confess, pray, and heal my heart. I've discovered that there are medicinal qualities down the corridor of introspection. When I became a man, I learned how to love her. My Esther, my Ruth. I learned to honor her like she was Jesus' mother, because one day she'll be pregnant with the seed that will transport my legacy, so that my God and my name would both have longevity even after they bury me. I couldn't love her before because I wasn't able. My insecurities and my perfectionism had me looking at the next best player checking in at the scorer's table. How could I possibly be her covering as an umbrella with holes in it? But I learned to love her like I oughta, because I want him to be my father and my father-in-law, since that's his daughter. When I became a man, I learned to love my brother. I'll share my heart, my hug, and my hallelujah. Because a hug and a hallelujah without my heart leaves room for his spirit to respond, I never knew you. I became a man so that until he became a man, he can see and name a man who picked up the gospel, 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 and put the toys away. When I became a man.
Everyone, you have just experienced Phil Allen, spoken word artist, When I Became a Man. And so I'm asking you today, what is it to be a black man? What is it to be a man? And then do you add a dynamic of black man to it? How do we get our examples? What does it look like for us? And then how does it resonate in our lives, in our families, in our communities? It's the basic things that we have to start with. That is what I believe, in order to get into the bigger picture. It is the foundation that we have to understand in order to grow. How can we help you, black man? I'm a black woman trying to understand what we need to do to help black men. You are our covering. You are our foundation. You are the essence of who we are as a people. Do you all understand that? As much as women want to try to tell you, oh, no, I don't need a man, I don't, yes, you do. We've had that conversation before. That is what you desire. You desire the covering. You desire that person that will make sure you're okay, that everything is okay, that you can help. The helpers that we are, the helpmates that we're supposed to be. The complement that creates our family structure. But if we don't take the time to understand who the black man is, then how do we help? If the black man then doesn't take the time to understand who he is, the essence of who he is, then how he is perceived in America versus the essence of who he is, how he is perceived in his household to then create the images in America versus who he is, if it is in line with who he understands himself to be, how he then is perceived and seen as his family, how then that is put into the community and then projects the image in America. There's so many layers, black men. And we're just trying to understand. And I know that our 2 hour segment won't do it, but I believe that the topic is so important. You are so important that we have to at least put it out there. We have to at least skim the surface. I'm going to go to the line. Thanks for your patience. Great morning to you.
Great, great conversation. Loving it.
Thank you.
Loving it.
Thank you.
I also wanted to add, just in case you don't know,
Okay.
FYI, that your show has been technical difficulties been showing up where the screen has been going totally blank. So
Oh,
I'm sure, yeah. So I'm sure we missed out on some conversations and some other, replies to your show.
okay.
But I'm gonna add my 2 cents to it. And as
Please.
having a son, a mother with a son,
Yes.
I think that I tried to focus on keeping the enemy within thee out, to teach him how to rid himself of any enemies within thee that will cause the distraction to keep him dysfunctioning.
Okay.
And so once they can lift their own spirits and see inside themselves of who they are, their true identity and their true capabilities, I think they can go so much further. Because I
Absolutely.
see a big difference now with my son by taking all those negative energies out. And
Okay.
so whatever I, as a woman, as a mother, can do for my men would be to help them bring that true identity and capabilities out of them.
Absolutely. I have a question for you if I can. And so
Okay.
I always say, and I can only go back to my upbringing with my brother. And this is one of the things that I respect my mother so much for, because when my brother was of age and my parents weren't in the household together, the little kids would tease him and say, well, he doesn't have a dad, because on our block there weren't dads in the households. And my brother Carlos would say, yes, I do have a dad. And they're like, no, no, you don't have a dad. And he was like, yes, I do. And so he told my mother, I want to live with my dad. And my mother, in her selflessness, understood that she believed that she couldn't raise him to be a man. And
Exactly.
so and my brother was what, 10 at the time. Let's see, 10, cuz I was, yeah.
Right.
And so next thing you know, my dad shows up to, and I remember the stories, and I know I was too young to probably actual have that recollection, but my dad pulls up in the car and my brother sees him and he's just running, and all the little
Yes.
kids are running too, because he's like, there's my dad. I have a
Yes.
dad and he's here. And so I ask you, as a woman, how did you have a consciousness to say, you know what, this is what my son needs, not being a man?
Well, one thing about when I, as a single mother raising my son, I
Yeah.
always went to mentors. I
Okay.
always went to men to help me, and I also allowed his dad, even though we didn't have a great relationship, I
Yes.
never kept him from his dad.
Yes.
He loved his dad, and I wanted him to be happy. And
Yes.
even if sometimes being miserable with his dad
Yeah.
today, because I did not stop that relationship with him,
Yes.
that bond is stronger today as
Yes.
my son, a young adult now. So I
Yes.
always made sure that I did have male mentors in his life. And again, I also never stopped him from being in sin with his dad.
Yeah.
And it made for the greater today. We all are bonded better today, because sometimes you have to walk away from a situation
Yeah.
to let it grow and to fester. And if it's meant to be, it's going to come back around full force positively. And it did.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for that, for having
Okay.
the maturity to
Thank
understand
you.
that just because your relationship with
Yes.
him as a partner is not
Yes.
beneficial, it does not negate his role and his importance as a dad for his
That's right.
son. And that's what we have to get. And as adults, I believe a lot of times we miss that. We get so caught up in the adult stuff, in the relationship stuff, that it can be of detriment to our children. So thank
That's
you.
right.
Thank you. Thank you for
You're
being
welcome.
the adult and the mother in that situation. And thank you to his dad for
Yes.
understanding his role and his responsibility outside of a relationship with you. So
That's
thank you.
right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Everyone, that's what it's
Okay.
about. It's about understanding what we need and specifically what our black boys need in order to grow up to be men, if they're the right type of examples for them, if we actively take the time to give them what they need. As adults, if we are having problems in our relationships, to move that to the side, to look for what is beneficial for the children. And hear me, it is not just for boys and their dads, it's equally as important for daughters and their dads. We can get into that's a whole nother conversation. But in understanding and allowing men to be the man. And then for you to be honest enough, if you know that you don't believe that you're equipped with certain characteristics. I told you all, there was a clip, a gentleman, and I had posted it, and he said his son asked him, Dad, how do you know how to be such a great dad? And he said, I just gave you, when I give you what I didn't have. So where is our onus that we have for knowing what we didn't have growing up and what we needed, and removing ourselves from the selfishness of it to give it to our children? I'm going to go to the line. Thanks for your patience. Great morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You look fabulous this morning.
Oh, thank you.
And you are very, whether you know it or not, you are a very inspirational speaker.
Oh.
Having the ability. That's okay. Just
thank you.
To translate the English language in so many other different ways.
Okay.
But you know, this what you're talking about is my family are grown after a certain time. When I say my family, there was we had a blended family, you know, from different fathers and but that's
okay.
a point. And I have faced that difficulty, and you have to get to the ball running. I mean, it's just like you don't come with a book.
Right.
I look at all these people and say, well, why don't you do this, do this, do this? There is no book.
Right.
And the conversation doesn't happen. That's when I say, you know, you're so glorious with this conversation. But as things go, I'm looking at my daughter now, who's in New York, and I'm looking at how do things happen? How do things evolve? You know,
yes.
And I'm understanding. You know, we were as a people molded into a thought process.
Yes.
Okay. And then I said, well, wait a minute, you know, because there's things that just seems to be natural, you know, like the guy said, 6'4", you know, we come here as a loving people, but it can be driven out of you.
Right.
Okay, and I've had experiences. I served in the military, and not voluntarily, and they know exactly how to drive it out of you, and you're going to follow up the leader, and you're going to shoot and kill another human being, okay?
Right.
That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
And people that never experienced, no, that wouldn't happen. I said, you know what? You ought to thank Jesus that you didn't get the opportunity or the blessing that you didn't go there.
Right.
Because if you don't believe, they'll make you believe.
Right.
Now, these thoughts, these things, and then if you are blessed to have children and to have a son, I'm saying a blessing, not just that you were able to do it.
Yeah.
Now the challenge starts off. The game starts off. It is not. The fun is over.
Right.
That, you know.
Right.
The conception.
Yeah.
Okay. And I looked at you and I said, you know, you illuminated something, because I was going to ask you. I said, you know, what was your relationship with your father? And you also illuminated that your mother and father were separated, but they still had a consciousness of their children.
Yes.
Which supersedes all the other obstacles that are presented to them going forward.
Ah.
And that's unique. I'm looking at it from looking back, and I'm saying, well, why didn't so and so do this? We have tremendous obstacles. I don't call them excuses, obstacles.
Yeah.
And they are, when they say by design, you know, people say, well, it is by design. Even today,
that's right.
You know, you got people and you think, if I go to this church, or if I get on to this one, he'll help me solve the problem.
That's right.
Just like you say, well, when we vote for this mayor, or we vote for this constable, they're gonna help us solve the problem.
Right.
I went to a place that says no, it's a good idea, but we ain't doing it that way.
Right. Right. And let me
Like
just
I
and
said,
let me comment. Let me engage with you because you made some great points, and I want everyone to know my transparency is probably part of that healing process for me, but it's for us to be better. When I look at my family, I am blessed to be able to say 43 years, no, because I'll be 46, 44 years later, my parents have reconnected. 44 years later. Okay? They separated when I was 2. So 44 years have happened where, as adults, they were honest enough to go through their life experiences and ultimately understand that the relationship that they started off with was the best relationship for them, and in their humanness was able to put down all the things that cover up you, being able to see your truths, to be able to have a good life. And I'm fortunate because in the midst of those 44 years, my brother and I were able to grow and to learn. And like you said, those challenges, those obstacles, it wasn't always easy. It was hard. But life is hard if you're trying to be better. And so we were able to go through it together. I tell you, still feel like the 2-year-old girl with my dad. At 45, everything about my dad, he is my hero. He is my answer to everything. He is my confidant. Before I really started delving into my business, we talked every day. Energy from him every day. That's what I try to tell you. I know what it's like, the importance of having a black man in your life that sets your direction, that tells you you're beautiful, that tells you you can accomplish any and everything. That's who my dad was to me. That's who he was to my brother. I mean, you always got to understand the role that you play, how you create who we are in our lives. And to this day, thank you, Sean. And to this day, I still want to make my dad proud. I'm still that 2-year-old girl looking for his approval. It matters, men. It matters. Who you are to us in our lives matter. We just want you to get it. And if we have to grow together in it, so be it. So be it. But it will all have an impact on us. I am better because of it. I am better because I can share that with you, because I hope somebody gets it. I hope you all get it. I'm fortunate you can share that you have a daughter that's in New York. I pray that you have a relationship with her. I pray that if you have any challenges for any of you, that you can be truthful enough to say, okay, what is it about me that can impact their growth and their development, and go back and you can fix it. We're given life. At any time, we can fix this thing. It can be better. That's the beauty of life. When you wake up to a new day, it can be a better day because you woke up. You can change it. It can be great every day. When you all call in, how are you? I'm amazing because I am alive. You are amazing because you are here. We can have the real conversations that make us better, everybody. I just want us to be better. I want you to be better. I don't want you to live your life in regrets. I don't want you to look back on your life and say, I wish I coulda, shoulda, I coulda. Because at the end of the day, all the stuff that you thought was so important, it's not going to be important anymore. The house that you live in, the size of the house, how big the house is, no one cares about that. The car you drive, no one cares about that. Did you have someone who could bear witness on your life? That when you woke up and you weren't feeling too good, they could rub your back or they could hold your hand and say, I'm here for you. Someone has a smile for you. Do you know what it's like to know that you wake up and someone's there that you know loves you? That you're not in this by yourself? That there are people that you can call on or who are going to call on you because they're going to be there? The money that you have will make no difference. All that will fade away and it'll just be you. Because at the end of the day, we come into this world by ourselves and we will leave by ourselves. But the importance of the relationships that we have mean everything. And black men, you matter. You matter more than you know, even if you think you know. It's more than what you think. You shape all of us. You are the lifeblood to our communities. Everyone says it's the woman. Do you know women follow the lead of a man? Do you know that? Maybe if you didn't know women, maybe I shouldn't be telling it, but it's the truth. We do what we do to get you. You do what you do to get us, and everything else is to be uplifting to you. I'm a woman. I'm just telling you that's what it is. You all might not even see it that way. And you're so busy wanting to be defined and needed, and you put forth all these things, tangible things, what you can give, what you can pay for. It's so much more than that. It's so much more. So, caller, I didn't want to miss your thought, but please, thank you for allowing me to interject.
You just made my now not the many days that I've been here. You just helped me. Whether you believe it or not, you've helped me. Because see, as I'm listening, it's and I'm learning. That's another thing. As I'm listening, I wake up and I'm saying, you gotta listen. Because actually, when I look at myself, a guy would say hard charger.
Yeah.
I'm going. I mean, it's full back up the middle. Head down and get in there. Get in there. Get in there. I ain't backing up.
Right.
I'm not backing up. But and in that process, you're not listening.
Right.
You're not listening. So
Right.
this is a blessing. I mean, you don't know how much more it was a blessing just to me. Hey, you're learning to listen.
Yeah.
And the blessing is that you're still here, like you said. Just you're here. You're here today.
That's
You
right.
got to learn how to say thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for your creator. Thank you for my parents are gone. That's the other part that I don't want to take away, because as I'm listening, I said this before, your first teacher, whatnot. Now, my parents,
Yes.
they moved on to their ancestors.
Yeah.
So all these questions that people ask, you better look around and say, are your parents still here?
Yes.
Go back and talk to them.
Right.
Go back and build that relationship
Yes.
if you can. Get rid of that anger.
Yes.
I can hear that anger. Get rid of it all, because it's not worth anything.
That's right.
It's not worth anything.
That's
it
right.
doesn't change anything.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. You're right. Amen.
I mean,
You're
I
right.
can be right, but it's no good for me just to be right. It's like you, let someone else understand.
Yeah.
I hope I'm accelerating what you're feeling and having folks say that she's not by herself.
Yeah.
People,
Yeah.
brothers, sisters.
Thank
And
you.
it's not really that difficult to understand that everybody is actually like that, whether they're Caucasians, whether they're Asians, they really are.
Right. That's true. That's
We
true.
may have, they really are.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you get to understand that they have the same aspirations you. They all want to have their children do better in life.
Absolutely. Might not even know how to get there. And because we have all of these false things that keep us separated or keep us in the mindset that we believe that we are so different, but we're so alike. We're much more alike if we could just get a chance to just sit down and have the honest dialogue. And even if it hurts, it's honesty. You get it out there. Keeping it in doesn't do anything. It just festers. And then it creates itself into all kinds of other things. It's not necessary, you all. We want to live. We want to live in abundance. We want to have a good life. And so you get it out of you so you can heal from it and learn from it. You don't have to hold that stuff in. This is crazy. That's not who we are. We're supposed to be evolving into better people every day. That's what this whole thing is about. And so when you get those right lessons, then you can correct. Those are steps of correction in your life so that you will make better choices with the men and women that you select and elect. My dad always tells me he has yet to officially meet the love of my life. And so he says, but Collette, I have enough faith in how I taught you and who you are that you will make the right decision. Absolutely. At 45 years old, I have to take the time to make sure what I'm doing is right before I present someone to my father. You all know how that works. But I'm blessed to be able to say that who I have is like my dad. And people always say you'll get someone either like your mom, like your dad, one way or another. like my dad, strong man, God fearing man, family man, selfless man. And I am blessed and I know that. I get that. But I had to do the work for me. Because if I didn't work on me, I couldn't attract him. That's a whole different conversation, y'all. Maybe we should pick that up. Because we do mirror. We're a mirror. So if you're broken, if you don't know what your challenges are, if you're not honest about them, that is what you'll attract. And you'll consistently be this hamster on the wheel trying to fix that other person, but it's really what you need to fix for you. But you just keep bringing them into your life because you're not dealing with it. And when you're finally honest, and when you finally have the moment where you let it all go and are truthful about it, then that's when you can attract what is good for you. I'm telling you all, it's my truth. It works. I can tell. That's why I tell you, I'm not here because I'm pointing fingers at everybody else. It's about me. And me sharing me with you hopes that you can identify like we're doing right now so that we can become better. So I appreciate your call, as always. I know that you're going to have an amazing rest of the day. I'm going to get this other caller in before we have to sign off, if that's okay. Thank you. Everyone, I'm going to get you my last caller for the day. Great morning to you.
Great morning to you
Thank you.
also for that. And I'm telling you, I just took my granddaughter to Chuck E. Cheese. She was honored in school for her grades.
Okay.
And, she really exalts her granddaddy. And her mama was a lot like her also, and I had the same relationship with her mother to my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Although my daughter learned how to play piano,
Okay.
and I just hadn't had that much time with my granddaughter and my grandson. So I really understand what you're saying, and it's very, black men are very important.
Yes.
I think that if you're doing the work of God, that's what really makes you a black man. And in the clip that you showed, he said he became a man when he learned about God. He learned how to love God.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so if we're working for God, then that's the bridge to becoming a man. And I think that Jesus was that example, that bridge also.
Okay.
So I definitely agree with you.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, and thank you so much for calling and taking the time because you're a black man in America. I can only think about and see based off of examples of what black men have to go through in America and then in their households. But I appreciate the courage that you have for calling in and telling your truth because if you didn't, we wouldn't know. You had to
Hmm.
say you understood it. It resonated when Phil Allen said, "Understanding God, having a relationship with God, a love
Hmm.
for God." Everyone, that's not religion. So we're not all these conversations that we're having back and forth, and everyone wants to, maybe get some kind of way, get in their feelings about this dynamic. We're not talking about religion, everyone. We're talking about spirituality. We're talking about a relationship with spirit, a relationship with God. No matter
Yeah,
what religion, whatever, even if you don't even focus on the religion, but
yeah. See,
understanding God in you and then working to be better. So you
yeah.
could,
That's the word.
yeah,
Working. See,
working.
you are working for God. You don't have to be in church
Ah,
working for God. You can be anywhere working for God, and through the work is where you learn.
yes. 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 If we want to work. And you make a great point because I want us to understand that realize whether you actively think you're working or not, it's working. Work is happening all around
Right.
you. So if you sit there and do nothing while it's happening, it's still work. That just means you're not going to reap the benefit because you're not engaged. It becomes better when you engage. When you engage in this life process, when you engage in the truths of who you are and where you are and why you do what you do, in the sincerity of it, in the truth of it, in the conversations that we're sincere about, it's about the sincerity of the intent. then you
Yeah.
can move somewhere. You can do the work. You said it. I might not have had these experiences with my daughter, my granddaughter, your grandchildren. It's an
Mhm.
impact. Because we know if we didn't have it,
Yeah. Important. Yeah.
it's important. It's everything. I can remember the times my grandpa, Papa, both of my grandpas were Willie Ramsey, Willie Pickens. Willie Ramsey, quiet man, strong man, down in Arkansas, and he had this big chair, and he would keep his chair. You know, the doors are open back in down south. You didn't lock the doors, so he would have the screen porch, the door open, and he's sitting in his chair. And I would just sit
Mhm.
there in the rocker that my grandma would sit, and I'd just sit there with him, and I'd think he was asleep, and he could tell you every conversation that happened in that household. He was a man of few words, and I remember as I got older and I was getting ready to leave one summer, and he stood on the porch and he waved by and he cried. And I said, and every time I would tell him I loved him, he never said anything. And I said, I love you, Pop Pop, and he said, I love you too. That was the examples of manhood. That was my
Yeah.
grandpa. Worked in the sawmills, worked in the
Mhm.
meat plant, taking care of his family, doing what was best in the community, you guys. That's the
Yeah.
role of the men that we need. We need it. We got to understand who you are in order to help you, to help us. And maybe it's selfish. Maybe we look at it and say, you know what? We're being a little selfish. But you mean that much to us that we are. So I appreciate your call. Thank you so
All right.
much, everyone. And you all know I'm emotional, so I
Thank
tell it
you.
I will cry at the drop of a hat because I will. That's just who I am. So I just appreciate you today. As always, everyone, our time is up. I pray that you have been as filled as I have today. I pray that you understand the importance in dealing with the truths of your life, the importance of the men in our lives, the importance and role of black men in our lives. Whether it is as a father, as a brother, as a son, as an uncle, as a cousin, as a friend, as a husband, whatever it is, there is an importance that we cannot negate. And we have to do everything that we can to make sure that the men in our lives are filled. And they're filled mentally and physically and spiritually. And that's what our charge is as we acknowledge June as Men's Health Month and every other month. That is our charge. So I thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you next Thursday for another edition of Coffee and Conversation with Collette. Until then, take care.
When I became a man, I put away childish things. But before I became a man, I didn't always fit the shoes of a king. I was a child trying to find his way. And the toys I played with kept my eyes occupied and left my mind in a lustful, boyish frenzy. And my playmates had long legs, short skirts, and soft skin, and they cared enough to lie down and wallow with me often. Jezebel turned out to be my very best friend. I'd look in her eyes before ever seeing the sunrise, every time I paid her a visit and slept in. Before I became a man, I saw how God made Adam from dust. So likewise, I tried to make love out of lust. I didn't know any better. I was taught by example, let your mouth spit game, but never let your heart say much. I treated his daughters like beauty pageant contestants, and there would be zero return on their investments, and Proverbs 31 was never a criteria for my selections. Mind you, this was before I became a man. This was about the time that I took notes from a father figure who really didn't know how to be a father. Go figure. About the time that mom was a punching bag because he was too afraid to take his frustrations out on the world instead by simply enduring affliction. Yet during addiction, he could go 12 rounds against the most violent screams of stop, stop. And he was undefeated. He always won. And I would stand in plain sight, hoping Daddy sees. Because all I could say at the time was, Daddy, please. Mom didn't deserve what she got just because she didn't satisfy Daddy's needs. Before I became a man, I would unlock daddy's curse, free myself, and throw away daddy's keys. I allowed anger to set up a construction company inside. And bitterness never rested. It left no time wasted. And whether daddy loved me or not, all I could regurgitate was hatred. I became allergic to showing any form of compassion. Before I became a man, I was much shorter. Not just in height, but in spiritual insight. Because I never had a picture, nor did Pixar ever have a film to show me what God's man really looked like. But when I became a man, I learned how to love God right back. And even though I'm good at falling short of the glory, I reflect on my story, and through my praise, I'll self-publish a testimony. When I became a man, I learned how to cry. Because I'm not ashamed of my tears, neither will my fears muffle the groaning in my spirit. Since I became a man, I'm no longer afraid of the dark. I'll wrap my fingers around James 5:16, confess, pray, and heal my heart. I've discovered that there are medicinal qualities down the corridor of introspection. When I became a man, I learned how to love her. My Esther, my Ruth. I learned to honor her like she was Jesus' mother, because one day she'll be pregnant with the seed that will transport my legacy, so that my God and my name would both have longevity even after they bury me. I couldn't love her before because I wasn't able. My insecurities and my perfectionism had me looking at the next best player checking in at the scorer's table. How could I possibly be her covering as an umbrella with holes in it? But I learned to love her like I oughta, because I want him to be my father and my father-in-law, since that's his daughter. When I became a man, I learned to love my brother. I'll share my heart, my hug, and my hallelujah. Because a hug and a hallelujah without my heart leaves room for his spirit to respond, I never knew you. I became a man so that until he became a man, he can see and name a man who picked up the gospel, 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 and put the toys away. When I became a man.